Today I want to talk about something that is really close to my heart. For all of my life, I believed and was taught that God was a dude, that God was masculine. And this really presented a lot of problems for me. I've struggled for as long as I can remember to find value in being feminine and being a woman and being a girl. It hasn't been since recently in the last couple years where I've been able to drop that belief of just thinking that God is just masculine and being able to encompass other aspects of who God is, masculine, feminine, all these different aspects, that God is much bigger than the God that I was taught growing up. It wasn't until that moment that I realized that that was a missing piece to really feel value as a woman. If you believe that the being that made you, God, if you believe that that being is only an aspect that doesn't include a huge part of who you are, your femininity, then the only logical feeling at that point would to be, I must not be as valuable as being masculine or being a man if that's who God only is. Now it just seems so plain to me that God is not only masculine, but back then it was all I ever knew, and it was all that was ever told to me. So I just made sense of it the only way I knew how. But to think, okay, if God made masculine and feminine and all of this, then why wouldn't a huge part of who God is be feminine? Now it just makes total sense to me, but I wasn't encouraged to ask those questions. It was just assumed, well, this is what people believed and this is what we're going to believe. And this is what, I think it's just these cultures, these very patriarchal cultures that are passed down. And it's just taken for granted that, oh, this must be the way that it is. One of the places that I have found a lot of comfort and a lot of knowledge about the feminine incarnation is from Richard Rohr. I've read a lot of his books that if you're searching for more of that kind of stuff, then I would totally recommend him. I feel like he's way more open-minded than just the narrow conservative Christian route. And I really appreciate that about him. But he also is pretty grounded as well. And he had this meditation the other day that was just really incredible for me to read. It's titled, "She is Love." Why not? Why not pretend for now that the absolute, the great mystery, the ground of being sometimes expresses itself in the body of woman? Pretending God's a dude hasn't exactly worked out for the vast majority of the human family, let alone the animal and plant communities or the air or the waters. Mirabai Starr. Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, an African-American pastor and author that I greatly respect, spoke at CAC's recent conference on the theme of racial and gender inequity. Not surprisingly, some white folks in our audience were very uncomfortable, and that's okay. Discomfort is a teacher. It's an invitation to learn and grow. As unpleasant as it may be, we must face the truth of Christianity's complicity in creating and supporting systems of oppression. It's more than time for all of us to reimagine God. Keep your heart open as you read Jackie Lewis's vision of God. It makes sense that because white men created so much of religion, the image of God was an old white man with gray hair. However, this image needs a makeover because he's no longer working. My God is a curvy black woman with dreadlocks and dark cocoa brown skin. She laughs from her belly and is unashamed to cry. She can rock a whole world to sleep, singing in her contralto voice. Her sighs breathe life into humanity. Her heartbreaks cause eruptions of justice and love. Of course, because God is a mystery, we don't know everything about her. So out of our imaginations and our yearnings, our hopes and our fears, we make stuff up. At our best, we project goodness, power, kindness, and love onto God. At our worst, we create a God who is punitive, angry, judgmental, and harsh. We do this because we are those things, and we think they make us safe. Projection itself is not the problem. The problem occurs when we don't examine those projections with a critical eye, with a hermeneutic of suspicion. The issue is that we write laws that codify the shadow parts of the God we create in order to diminish others, to abuse others. The trouble starts when our God is too small, when we reduce our worst projections to fit in our pocket and keep this God on our team. When we neglect to confront this created God, we get the Crusades and the doctrine of discovery, the murder of indigenous people and Jews, apartheid and enslaved Africans, sexism, xenophobia, and homophobia, all in the name of the too puny God that is the worst of ourselves. I know I've got my projections. They are inspired by my imagination and by textual studies. In Hebrew, the words for womb and mercy have the same root, and the word for spirit is feminine, ruach. In Greek, the word pneuma, breath or spirit or soul, has a feminine article. The word Sophia stands for wisdom, and the word agape, God's love for us, is also a feminine word. Therefore, my God is an incarnate feminine power who smells like vanilla and is full of sass and truth, delivered with kindness. She'll do anything for her creation. Her love is fierce. She weeps when we do and insists on justice. She is God. She is love. When I first read that, I got pretty overwhelmed with emotion, especially the part where she's just starting to describe God. She laughs from her belly, is unashamed to cry. She can rock a whole world to sleep, singing in her contralto voice. I think for me, I've been starved of this side of God, this feminine side of God, who I believe exists. And I think the world, humanity, humans are starved of this too. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys tomorrow.